Hey, Matt.
Hey, Mike.
Should we do the podcast?
I think we should.
But we've already done a bunch of them. We sure we should do another one?
I guess. Just,
For old time's sake?
yeah, round it off.
Let's do it. Welcome to Hacking the Grepson, the podcast about software development and programming and related interests. I am Mike, and I'm here with
Matt.
And we're going to talk to you for the 100th time.
That's a lot.
Yeah, we've done a lot of podcasts. I mean, honestly, I don't think we'd make it this far. How about you?
No.
But we did. And today, I think we want to do something a little different than we normally do on this podcast, where we, choose a topic or a blog post and kind of, discuss it at length for 30 minutes or so. Instead, I think we should look back on this immaculate, perfect, pristine podcast and maybe talk about, what we liked, maybe what we didn't like, some of our favorite episodes, maybe any kind of follow-ups on notable ones that you liked. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I was trying to think of some I didn't like, and I couldn't come up with any. So
That's because it's a perfect podcast.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
And now we get to be in syndication because we hit 100.
that's right. That means royalties, right?
Yay! I can't wait for my 1 cent check every 3 years.
Exactly. That's the only reason why I started this thing. I think one of the first things I wanted to do was just rattle off a couple interesting statistics about this podcast. So this is obviously episode 100.
Yes.
And if you don't count this podcast, since we're literally in the middle of recording it, and I don't know how long it's going to be, so I can't predict the future, if we look at the previous 99 episodes, our first episode was on December 15th, 2021.
Really?
When we were mere babes.
Yes.
And now we are old men.
Yes.
Yes.
I can almost walk without a cane still.
I need 2 canes. That's the problem. And if you count up every single one of our recorded audio bits, we have done 10 hours, 40 minutes, and 36 seconds of Hacking the Grepson thus far.
Wait, 10 hours?
10 hours total.
That seems low.
If you average about 30 minutes times 99 episodes, that sounds about 10 hours. Wait, you're right. That is way too low. I got that figure from a script that I wrote where I took all of our episodes from our host. I got the duration of all of them, and then I added them all up, and then I used a JavaScript function that I've used before to turn the number of seconds of all the durations into a hour, minute, second. And that's what it gave me. It gave me like 200,000 seconds. And then I whittled that down to an incorrect amount.
Let's see, so 200 divided by 3. Well, 200 divided by 4. That should be 50 hours-ish.
50 hours?
That's me really roughing it out.
Okay, well, now that I've completely humiliated myself in my ability to write JavaScript functions, 50 sounds right. Let's just go with about 50 hours, unless you really want to figure out.
I wanted to see if I still had my script that parsed up the thing so I could check.
I will save a spot in this podcast episode to put the actual amount right about
58 hours, 40 minutes, and 36 seconds.
there. That's how long it was.
Thanks, future Mike.
I love editing Mike. He fixes all of recording Mike's problems.
I like editing Mike because he does all the work.
I do. And I also got most of this information because you can go to our host and look at all our episodes, but I thought it would be fun if I just pulled the RSS feed or the XML feed, and I made a cool little page that has those stats, and it has every single one of our episodes. It also has this little, meter that I came up with where I took the longest episode and then I kind of compared every episode to that to sort of get a length meter. So if it's more than half below that, it stays in the green. If it's 75% of that, it gets into the yellow. And if it's almost 100% of the longest episode, it's in the red. And so based on this, our longest episode that we've done ever was number 83, which was Advent of Code 2024, the first 7 days, and it was an hour and 23 minutes long.
I am not surprised by that.
No.
That is very long, though. I think we even talked at the time about maybe splitting it up.
Well, we did. We split it up into...
No, I meant that recording.
Oh, yeah. Because we did 4 parts for that. For 1 through 7, 8 through 14, 15 through 19, and 20 through 25. We also had a guest.
Yes.
So that always adds a little more runtime in general. I'd say our shortest episode that we've ever done, if you include ones that just I did when Matt was not around, it'd probably be around 10 minutes. But if we take the one where Matt was actually around, I would say about 23 minutes. So anywhere from 23 minutes to an hour and 23 minutes, we really don't know how to keep time.
Nope.
I think is what that tells me.
I've said before, I have no rhythm.
No rhyme. So it is not bobsled time.
Yeah. No rhythm, no rhyme, no reason either.
It's no time for bobsled time. All right, I think that's enough about random facts. I think what would be fun next is to actually get into maybe our favorite episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we could do like a top 5?
I was going to say top 10, but there are 2 of us, so that works.
That's true, because we may overlap or we may not. We don't know. We have no idea what we have each chosen as our top 5 episodes. So, should we get into that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just start with number 5.
Number 5.
Matt, why don't you go first? Your top 5 favorite episode of Hacking the Grepson.
I will say I cheated a little bit on the
He's a cheater.
episode, and sometimes it's episode themes.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't do that, but whatever.
So, Improv Dev is my number 5.
Improv Dev.
That's episodes 24 and 55. I really should have done more of those.
Yeah, because I think I beat you with the music dev ones.
Oh, quite a bit.
Yes, but now why is that your number 5?
I think I really like the first one of those, the Yes and one.
Yes, and
Because I really do think that that's how I approach problem solving and working on code, and it's interesting to take 2 very different disciplines and figure out where the overlap is.
yeah. Well, when you were done looking at these 2 very different disciplines, I mean, I'm thinking you probably found more overlap between them than before.
Yeah, quite a bit. It was just hard for me to put episodes together that had to do with any of them.
Yeah.
I was like, how do I explain this to a layperson?
Yeah. No, I really like that one too. I like my degree, my BA in college was an interdisciplinary degree. It was with computing and the arts. And so obviously I'm really interested in how things, mesh.
Cool. Well, what was your number 5?
My number 5 was not that one. It was actually episode 28, which was the first part of our Advent of Code 2022.
Advent of Code.
I was going to pick the one we did in 2021 just because that was the first one, but I feel like in 2022 we really solidified how we were covering Advent of Code, and we didn't start this podcast specifically because of Advent of Code, but it was our 3rd episode that we talked about it.
Yeah.
So it felt...
Well, we started in what? You said December
15th, which was right in the middle of it. Yeah,
so that makes sense.
Yeah, we were in the middle of doing our first Advent of Code ever, and we're like, we should talk about this, and maybe we should talk about it on our podcast that we just started, coincidentally.
Hey, wait a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was... I feel like our Advent of Code episodes, because we've done one for 2021, 2, 3, 4, and we'll do one for 5 eventually, is kind of emblematic of like an ongoing series in this podcast. So it felt like it needed to be on that list.
Cool.
So that's my number 5.
All right, what's your number 4?
Number 4.
My number 4 is one that, and I'm sorry, Matt, but Matt was not on this, but I really enjoyed doing it. I actually re-listened to it last night just to remember what it was like, which was episode 76, Scoring the Grepson.
Scoring the Grepson.
This was an episode that was only about 10 minutes long.
I actually listened to that one. I usually don't listen to things.
But Matt listened to it because it was so good. That's why it's number 4. And this was the episode where I talked about all the music on the podcast. So where the intro and the outro music came from, the transitional music, the sound effect that I use rarely when we have a cold open and we want to kind of transition into the hey Matt, hey Mike thing. Yeah. So I've been doing music for, so many years. Whenever I think of a thing, if it doesn't already have music, I'm already thinking about adding it to it.
Since the 1900s.
Yeah, since the 1900s, yes. I told you I was an old man. Doing an episode, I probably, since we started the podcast, I wanted to do an episode like that. I'm like, well, Matt can't be here, and he can't stop me, so that's what we're going to do this week. So that's why I liked it. So what about your number 4?
My number 4, I actually considered making number 1, but I felt disingenuous. But my number 4 is number 1. The first episode we ever did, Hello World.
Oh, really?
It holds a special place in my heart. It's the first one of these that we did. I really liked it. I like kind of setting that that flow that we kind of set up as we were going, figuring out what we were doing.
Yeah.
In fact, like the first 5 episodes, I almost put all 5 of those on. I was like, okay, that's silly. But number 1 in particular, I was like, it's Hello World. How can I not love that? I still think it should have been episode 0, but stupid iTunes.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I also noticed when I went back to listen to the first few episodes, mainly because of the Scoring the Grepson episode, it wasn't until episode 5 that we actually solidified the whole "Hey Matt, Hey Mike" thing, and didn't play the music until we were done talking. Apparently I used to start the music while we were talking, and we were kind of talking over the music.
I think I gave you a note about that. I was like, that's weird.
Yeah, it does feel weird now, like, 99 episodes later, but at the time, I think the podcast I had done previously had a similar thing where someone was talking over the music, and so I just kind of kept doing that, and then Matt corrected my incorrect ways, and now we have the iconic intro.
I don't know if it's incorrect. It's just, my little neurodivergent brain is like, no, too much things at once.
Also, the theme song was played for much longer then, and then I think I shortened it to only about 10 seconds, which feels perfect now. It felt a little too long before, so, that's what happens when you're working on a podcast. All right, so that's number 4. Number 3. Matt, what was your number 3 favorite Hacking the Grepson episode?
All right, so again, I cheated and I went with the theme. It's actually your music dev episodes.
Music dev!
Oh,
I really like those. I learn a lot through those. I don't have much background in music whatsoever. I kind of understand, like, music theory a little bit, but I actually really learn a lot out of those.
What was there a particular one that...
I'm trying to find the number, but I apparently didn't write it down.
But what about the title? Or
I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was looping. I really liked that looping one because I like looping.
You really like the looping one?
I really like the looping one. Mm-hmm. I really like the looping one.
The looping one.
Because I really like that concept in music already, and obviously we use loops all the time in software.
For loops, while loops. Yeah. It seems like music itself, repeated things is what makes it stick in your head. Yeah. And computers are constantly doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, they're just refreshing the screen over and over and over again as you're doing something. So they seem pretty synonymous. All right, good pick.
How about your 3?
My 3, my third favorite Hacking the Grepson episode ever is number 48, P versus NP.
P versus NP.
Oh, interesting.
Now, I chose this one because I think it was our first real hard computer science episode. I also had the big notation as a notable one, but I think P versus NP was first, and I still couldn't explain to you the difference between P versus NP, even after recording that episode. Okay. But I loved having you talk and try to get me to understand. You definitely explained it well, but I don't, my brain...
Honestly, I barely understand it sometimes.
It's such a foundational bit of computer science, and it felt fun to do like an episode topic that I didn't fully grok before or after. So that means I still have more to learn.
Cool.
Yeah.
What is your number 2 then?
Number 2.
Let's move on to number 2. My second favorite Hacking the Grepson episode, we're getting up to the top, is a very recent one, Forest versus Desert.
Forest versus Desert.
That was a good one.
I really enjoyed the concept of Forest versus Desert. I remember I posted a link to the concept, the blog article that we talked about, to like my work Slack, and it got like recognized. Like one of my coworkers was like, "Hey, Mike just posted this really cool thing. I like this idea. Everybody should look at this," which never happens to me. So it was a fun discussion. We didn't even get into everything that blog series was about.
Because it was so many pages long.
Yeah,
and I think we both only looked at like the first 1 or 2.
Yeah, but it had so much juice even in that first article. So that was just a really fun discussion. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. So what about you? What was your second favorite?
The general category for this one was AI. I think if I have to pick a specific one, I'm going to pick our first one, which was episode 21.
Artificial intelligence.
And mostly because I flipped the script so hard on how I felt back then.
You were kind of about AI back then. I
didn't get it until, I think we talk about this a lot in episode 90, Practicalities of AI, where that's where I was like, okay, I get it now. I've been using them a lot, and here's how you can use it in ways that isn't that aren't terrible, right? Because there's still people that are using AI out there that are just doing it. I'll say it wrong. You know, I try not to say that anymore. That people are doing it wrong, but I disagree with that approach, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, AI, make this picture, and then they put it out and call it art.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, maybe it's art, but is it your art? I don't know. We had an episode on that too, which is who is the artist, which is episode 25.
And that is a notable one to me. You know, it didn't make the top 5 yet.
I found our AI series very interesting. Kind of like as it was becoming popular in the world, and we were kind of learning about it as we went. I just thought it was really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I would say both of us use AI and LLMs way more now than we did when we started this podcast. I mean, it is orders of magnitude gotten better in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I was telling Mike, so for the listeners here, I was telling Mike before we started recording about I was on my way up to LA, I wasn't driving, and I was bored. So I pulled out my phone, I SSH'd into my server, and I used Claude Code to write an entire parsing program for my other podcast, Knights of the Roll Table, to like pull out stats and like who was in what episode and who knows who, because that's always the questions that we have. I was like, wait, I have all this information in the metadata.
Yeah.
Let's parse it out. And it was really interesting to be like, I didn't write a single line of code for that. I only went through Claude Code.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming you at least you looked at all the code it made. You just didn't write
any of it. I did correct it a couple times. Like, no, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, so now that you've done that, I mean, are you going to do that more?
Yeah, I think it's useful for certain types of programs and tools. What I like is kind of using it as a scaffolding mechanism. Like, okay, I want to do this thing. Can you kind of like get me set up? And then I still like writing the bits myself.
Well, I'm curious, if you hadn't used Claude, how would you have gone about making that instead?
I would have written
basically what Claude
honestly
wrote?
Not too different than what it did, except I think it made more specific choices than I would have. Like, my code would have been more efficient. It was very like, okay, if this, then that, and then like that repeated a bunch of times. Like if like mapped all the characters out separately, then it did. It's not the way I would have gone. I would look at the thing. I would have said, who's in this episode? What characters are in this episode? And then like just stored that, and then maybe had a follow through at the end that was mapping them together. But it went about it in a different way than I would have. But I didn't really care because my interest there was the output.
Yeah.
And it's not something I'm going to run all the time. I like parse, done. Like,
right.
I don't care if it's done efficiently.
So you're saying it's really good for those like one-off projects, but would you do that in like your actual work production code at this point? Would you use it that way?
I have used Claude in my production code.
Yeah.
Mostly for refactoring. I'm like, do this exact thing that's really boring.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know what I want, how I want you to refactor. Do it like what I would tell an intern. Go do this exactly this way.
Yeah.
It works for that. But AI is not going to get creative anytime soon, so I don't want it to run the show.
Okay. All right. Well, so we've gotten through 2 through 5. All that's left is our favorite episode of Hacking the Grepson that we've done in the last nearly 4 years.
Wow.
You know, the more I think about that whole total duration thing, I feel like I probably just chopped off the string one character too much, and it's probably like 110 hours as opposed to 10, and I just didn't double check because I'm
that would make
dev.
sense given that we tend to talk for almost an hour.
Yeah, 99 hour, a little over an hour. Okay, yeah. Don't worry, we'll fix that.
Somewhere between 50 and 100.
Yeah, and 5 million.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 10 and 5 million.
Yeah.
Our favorite episode of Hacking the Grepson.
Number 1.
Let's say the number at the same time and see if we say the same number.
Okay.
Okay. So we say 1, 2, 3, the number.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
49.
89.
Oh, interesting. You said 89, I said 49.
Oh, wait. So what's 49?
89 almost made my list.
The improv of code.
Improv of code.
49 was really interesting to me. Yeah, it was improv of code. It's where you and I sat down and took an Advent of Code problem and worked on it together
Live, yeah.
And I found that I found the exercise very fun.
Yeah.
Like you and I had different approaches on how we were going to do things. And I just genuinely enjoyed making that episode.
And yet we never did another one. I wonder why that. You know, I will speak to that because I think I definitely had performance anxiety for something like that, and it was fun, but it was very anxiety inducing, and so I probably didn't want to do it again. But it was cool that we got one.
So 89 was the bottom up versus top down.
Bottom up versus top down.
I had this under my grouping of like Matt gets psychoanalyzed because I had a couple of those.
Yeah, there's something about I wanted to put a few others that were similar like that, where we talked less about the nitty gritty of coding and more about the psychology of coding.
Yeah, there was a couple good ones of that.
And Top Down versus Bottom Up was just such a wonderful episode, a good discussion about something that is applicable to so many things besides just, programming and software development. I have thought about it since then. I've used it to model things. It just, I don't know. I'm so glad we have that episode in, our catalog, and that's why I had to choose it. Although there were a few others that were up there, that's just the one that won.
Well, I mean, I think we still have time that we can talk about other notable episodes.
Let's do some notable mentions. What's some that didn't make your
So
your
since you mentioned that one about the kind of psychology ones, some other ones that are in that vein, The Curse of Knowing.
That was a good one.
That
How did make it up there?
I see this everywhere now. Mm-hmm. Constantly. I'm
Yeah.
like, yep, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing that thing. Writer's block, which was really early. That was like 15. Yeah,
Okay.
15. I found that one really interesting because I was having really bad coder's block at the time. And just like, that's where we start to delve into my neurodivergency issues is what I wrote there. There's another one of those, but I can't find it right now. So I must not have written it down. What about you?
So one that almost made the top 5 was one we literally almost just did, which was tutorialization, number
Ooh, that was a
98.
good one, yeah.
That was the one where we talked about, how much or how little tutorialization should you put in your software, which was spurred on by that conversation with our friend. I just thought that was a really interesting one. I shared it with our friend, and he really liked it too, so I'm glad we did that. I mentioned before the big notation where we talked about big O notation. That was, in the vein of P versus NP, where it was like something that I definitely didn't know much about. You did a lot of the talking. I still probably couldn't really well explain it to you, but I enjoyed it. The 12-factor app. We did 2 episodes on that because there was 12 factors. Yeah. And, that's not something that I think about consciously, but it's definitely something that subconsciously is always kind of coloring the way that I think about how apps I write work.
Yeah. I went to write down, because again, the way my mind works, I tend to bucket things. So I was like, the ones where we did articles kind of was what I looked at, and then specific kinds like that. And I had just so large of a list that I eventually just took it out, and I was like, okay, which one's specifically in there? Because we did quite a bit of those, but I really liked that part of our podcast, where we kind of stumbled on this, like, hey, here's this interesting article. Let's use it as a seed for us to talk about whatever it's talking about, or just go off on tangents.
There's another podcast that I've been listening to for years called Experience Points, and it's these 2 guys who talk about video games, but they often will do an episode on an article that someone wrote that spurs them into a big conversation. So yeah.
We have a lot of the verses kind of things. Not a lot. Actually, fewer than I thought we did.
Yeah.
But that's another way that I tend to think is this versus that.
Open source versus closed source.
Right? It's just, for me, it's an easy way to be like, almost always it's a spectrum on these things.
Yeah.
Forest versus tree, it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
Right? All of that is. But I find if you look at each of them from like a pure standpoint, object-oriented programming versus functional programming, those kind of things, I find it really interesting to be like, okay, if we went purely this way, what would that mean? If we went purely this way, what would that mean? And then like, okay, realistically.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any other notable ones?
Oh, I have tons.
Say some more.
Okay, I will. I'll just go through them in order.
Okay.
So I actually thought our number 2 episode was really fun. Programming languages, just kind of going through a bunch of them. And I'll say why I liked our first 5. And then they'll throw it back to you if you have more. So programming languages, and then we had our first advent of code. We already talked about that. Programming paradigms, I really liked. That falls into that kind of verses, but we talked about more than 2.
Yeah, because there's quite a few.
And I learned some stuff doing research for that, which is always fun. And then I really liked episode 5 because that was the one where we changed our name and also made some money from changing our name, which I think is funny.
We did.
And then we did an AOC 2021 wrap up, which I think is really kind of what kicked us into gear on doing AOC stuff, Advent of Code stuff generally.
Yeah.
Because Advent of Code itself was my number 1 in my top 5. Just like, I think that those episodes are really cool. I learned a lot from talking to you about how you think, and it was interesting to see different approaches, and also where we both were like, nope, I'm done. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this problem. It's annoying.
Yeah. And once we started bringing our friend Richard into, we get even a third
Yeah.
viewpoint on it.
And someone who actually finished all the problems.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to have three different kind of. I feel like I'm being judgy by saying skill levels, but there's definitely like completionist levels. Like
Yes.
I always end up completing the fewest. You complete kind of moderate to most, and then Richard completes them all.
Yes.
Somehow, and that's so we get all vantage points.
I have a low tolerance for frustration, and when I realize I'm not having fun writing the code anymore, I stop writing it.
Yeah, that actually brings up an interesting thing. Since we're both more into using AI, how does that color your thoughts on the upcoming Advent of Code 2025?
Well, I still am very against using the point of Advent of Code to me is, can you write this code?
Yeah.
But as things are changing in the world, like writing code is using tools. Like the way I try to keep my brain from
Atrophying?
from like getting too stuck in one place, too stodgy, is I try to think of I use analogies, right? So I'm like, okay, AI now is this huge paradigm shift from what we had been doing. But we've had that a bunch of times before. We had cloud computing. There was a lot of resistance to that. High-level languages, a lot of resistance to that.
IDEs versus like
Yeah,
Vim,
That took me forever to
Yeah.
jump on the IDE train.
Yeah.
And every time it's me being resistant to change. And then once I get on board, I'm like, oh, actually. And the only time I can think of where I came in after that sort of breaking point had come in is I never coded in assembly for real. Right?
Yeah.
I had an assembly class, but I learned in like Pascal and C before I ever hit that. And so I was like, well, I get this. It's useful to know how it actually works. I still think that's the case. Right? I think you should know how to code before you start this like vibe coding because you have no clue if it's any good.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can check the work of these things, not just the output. And so like I try to think of that here, right? It's the same kind of thing. It's a big jump in how you're writing code, but you're still writing code.
Yeah.
But AOC, Advent of Code to me isn't that. It's a test of my skills of actually like, do I understand how to write an algorithm for this? Can I parse through the problem? What I could see doing is saying like, hey, ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT is probably the furthest I would go on it, and I would never paste in the problem. I think that's where it breaks. That's the difference for me. If you break down the problem, you're like, hey, solve this piece for me. I understand what I need to do.
Yeah.
Fine. But if you like copy, paste, take output, paste, why? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
That's not fun. No one gets anything out of that.
Yeah. It makes me think of tools like Microsoft Front Page, when that and Dreamweaver and such like that, like when those things came out.
WYSIWYGs.
Yeah, WYSIWYGs.
That's also one of the analogies I use for this.
There was definitely a lot of pushback. I think there probably still is some pushback against using tools like that to like make websites because you don't know the code that it's making, and B, the code that it makes is highly unoptimized and was not the kind of code that I would write if I wrote it myself. But there's plenty of people who that's the only way they'd make a website. So
and they're probably making better websites than I do.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, my current website is all made by AI. Because I hate doing the UI side of things.
Yeah.
It's just not me.
I feel like it's as with most things, there is nuance in all of this, and there's really there is not a all AI all the time versus no AI ever.
Yeah.
Like that's
It's a
not how the
spectrum,
world
like
works.
I said.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's places to use it and there's places not to.
Yeah.
With the WYSIWYG editors in particular, I was a webmaster back in 97.
Also, WYSIWYG is just fun to say.
Yeah.
That's why it exists.
And I coded all the code myself. Right? There was no code. We talked about that on a previous episode. I wrote it all myself in like a text editor, probably Emacs, given the time frame. And I remember when WYSIWYGs came out, I was vehemently against them, with the caveat that if you were going to use one, you should at least understand the HTML and all that stuff behind the scenes, because if you understand that, then fine, you can generate a thing and then be like, ew, rip that code out. But you got the, like, as a prototype, and that's also where I think AI comes in play a lot of times. It's like, let me prototype this idea, and then I'm probably not going to use that code at all. Maybe as like, how did they do this piece, right?
Right.
But to then you can take it and you can optimize it yourself. You can refactor, or you can tell the AI to refactor. We couldn't do that with WYSIWYG things. You'd be like, this button has 57 lines of code for some reason. Why?
Yeah, exactly. I agree with all that. I did have a few more that I wanted to just bring up because I thought they were really cool. Episode 62, Problematic Tech Talk. That was an interesting one for me because we had to make lists of don't use blacklist and whitelist, use allowed and rejected. Because there's a lot, not just in coding and software development, but just in culture. We have a lot of terms that maybe when they were first introduced weren't as loaded or as emotion producing as they are now, and it's good to go back and revisit some of those and maybe rethink how they're being used now. And so that was really fun. My favorite music dev episode was the web audio API one, mainly because I used the heck out of that to make Keyboard, the web app that I made that's literally just play a keyboard, and you can either play raw oscillators like sine waves, or there's like some sound fonts, but I had to learn how that works because I had to make like the specific audio nodes, and if it was going to go through like some kind of effect, and you take that and you basically code this whole long string of objects that end up going into like a destination, which is generally like your speakers or your headphones or something. But that's probably my favorite part of the JavaScript ecosystem, is messing around with the web audio API. So that was fun to do.
Interesting.
We talked about who was the artist. Improv dev, yes, and was actually on my notable mentions. We already talked about that. And then the XY problem, that was also another really fun one where you say like, XY is like, I need to know how to do X. And someone is like, wait a second, are you sure you don't actually need to know why? Because I see that come up in discourse all the time where someone, a naive user will ask an X question, and a super smart user will be like, you don't need to do X. You're really trying to do Y, aren't you?
It's a thing that personally irks me. Anytime I ask a question and someone thinks I'm asking a different one, I'm like, no, I thought about this already. I want to know the answer to this question. And then if you have additional things to tell me after you answer that question, great. But answer this question first.
Yeah, it feels like a foundational mistrust of the user who's asking the question. Like, you think that you obviously know more than this person, because why else would they be asking a question? I'm like, you don't. I've done that a million times. You really mean this. I'm like, no, could you please answer this question first? And then...
when I catch myself doing that, I try to take a step back and say, what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what's your goal?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I can give you an answer, but I know this leads nowhere. Because it's one of those things that, like, I know this is a black hole in the code that or in the software that it seems like it should be able to go a certain route.
Yeah.
And I can kind of sense where you're going with this. And so I just ask for context.
Yeah.
Context, I was just telling my daughter this this morning, I think. It was last night. We were watching Jeopardy. Celebrity Jeopardy, so it was easy, right? But she's like, how do you know everything? I'm like, I don't. But I have a lot of stuff that I just like that I've been witness to.
Yeah.
Kind of like I've heard it.
Yeah.
The big thing in Jeopardy is recall, right? And what Jeopardy does well for me, especially Celebrity Jeopardy, is the context. Because they'll give you additional clues in the words, right? Like there'll be like a little pun or something else. And that instantly triggers the recall. But if you were just to be like, hey, Matt, who was this person that was in this movie? I'd be like,
yeah.
I don't know.
There's actually a really cool thing that I do with my wife. Every Monday, her work does a water cooler trivia where it's a themed 10-question quiz, and they do the same thing. Like, well, usually there's the clue because it's themed, so all the answers are going to roughly connect, and then also the question itself generally has some kind of context clue. And that's how you figure it out. You don't just know every dry fact ever. Yeah. You just you follow where they're kind of bumpering you towards it. Yeah.
I always say I have a terrible memory, but I realize I don't have a terrible memory. I have terrible recall. And so it's like it's incumbent on me now, or the person asking me questions, to set context properly so I can get to the answer.
Just like you do with your AI and the agent. You give them the context.
That's kind of what led me to realize that, actually.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm treating this the way I want to be treated.
Exactly. I just had one more I wanted to mention because I kind of miss it and it made me think maybe I should go back and check and see what they've updated.
Is it 39?
39. Proggle.
I wrote 39, Proggle. I missed this game.
Do you remember Proggle?
I do. It was on my list.
Proggle was so much fun. So that was the daily game where you had to figure out what the programming language was.
Yeah.
And they either gave you facts about the programming language or they gave you like code in it.
Yeah.
And so there were two
I
different
think it
ones.
started with like categorization of the code.
Yeah.
And then as you guessed wrong, it would reveal more until it finally revealed a code block.
Yeah.
And then that was like parts of it were like blocked out or something.
Yeah, and they slowly gave you more context until that was so much fun. And I think we stopped because they basically got through all the languages and it didn't seem
was
like
on repeat.
Yeah, so I don't know. I haven't touched that in years. I wonder if it's still around. I didn't look yet.
Yeah, no, me either. But when I was going through the list, that one jumped out. To me.
Okay, that's awesome.
I have a couple others.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Nothing big. I think we touched on writer's block already.
Mm-hmm.
And then code alignment. That was a fun one where we took kind of like the D and it was episode 13. It was where we took the D&D like alignment chart and I think someone had written an article about it or something and we someone had posted a picture of it.
Right.
And then we tried to
like
map
lawful neutral.
and so we then tried to map like we gave our opinions of how they mapped those things together.
Right.
But I was realizing what we should have done afterwards. We should have put together our own.
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
Yeah.
That
was a cool one.
And then my last one was our discussion on game dev, like episode 20.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cool, and it made me want to go write games,
Yeah.
which I still haven't done.
Yeah. Making a game would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I mean, this is a crazy idea. I just thought of it right now. But like, maybe we could make a game together
I'd like that.
and we could talk about it on the podcast.
That'd be fun. Oh, that would even kind of overlap with like the improv coding. What was it? Improv of code that we did where we did the AOC thing coded together. We could even do parts of that.
Yeah, we could actually like talk about the thing we're working on an episode and like work on it together.
That'd be fun. That could be like a whole series.
Yeah, that could be like season 2 of the podcast.
I like that. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So did
You like how I teed you up for that?
yeah, that was really nice. You even used a golfing, which is a game term. Did you have any other things about this wild adventure we've been on before we get to season 2, though?
No, it's been great. You know, you and I get to hang out more.
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed these kind of talks. I get to learn stuff.
Yeah.
And share stuff I know, both of which I really enjoy doing.
Yeah, I mean, this is the third podcast I've been on personally, and it is by far the longest I've been on. The other ones didn't make it past like 13 or 50. We're at 100. I want to keep it going.
Yeah, let's do it. And I
Okay.
love the idea of us writing a game together as kind of like the next phase of this, because I think we'll both learn a lot and we'll have a lot to share
Yeah.
as we go.
It's going to be interesting because I have never made a game with someone else. We both made a few games on our own,
Yep.
but this will be interesting.
I think so.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for episode 100
Woo!
of Hacking the Grepson. Thank you for listening. You can find more of our episodes, all the previous 99 ones, at hackingthegrepson.com. And we will keep trying to put these episodes out every 2 weeks on Wednesday. Although, I don't know. We'll have to get into whether season 2 is going to have the same cadence because it's going to work a little different. But
We'll have to figure out how it goes for us before we figure that out.
exactly. But until we next talk at you, we now return you to your regularly scheduled lives already in progress.